The longing for a life of ostentatious luxury is by no means a foolish dream. If anything, it is a dream many of us share. To exist in a life where problems are fleeting, where whims are often manifested and our wants are catered for by others. This wish, though selfish, is simple in its scope. This same wish and desire is the driving force behind our next character, and seemingly their kin, the Parasitic Mage. A grotesquely hunched humanoid creature, mouth agape, jaw slack, with a dense slimy tongue protruding outwards along with its slug-like eye stalks, peering about in search of their next mark. For the Parasitic Mage's aim is to find a life they desire and replace the person living that life. Some Parasitic Mages have lived entire lives from cradle to grave as someone else before moving on to the next person. They are able to do this through the use of two key items and surely some innate eldritch magic of their own. On the character sheet, we see a Liar's Scepter and a Dreamer's Dew. The first is a fragile staff made of pearl in the crude shape of a humanoid figure with an almost sewing needle-like loop at the top. This staff alters the mage's shape entirely, including size, appearance, bodily anatomy, and almost total transformation, almost as it's hard to know how complete this transformation is. The text says that they can even take the form of infants, so they can change size, and if they're able to live entire lives, it suggests that they also age in this new form. So this is no projection or basic illusionary magic, a trick of the eye, but an actual magical, biological shift within the mage. How the scepter copies the intended target's form isn't explained, but I would imagine in conjunction with the second item, it would kill their victim, as having duplicates of the same individual would make taking over life much more difficult. The second item in question, the Dreamer's Dew, is a potent sleep poison held inside a spiraled shell used prior to stealing the victim's appearance, meaning the mage would need to be able to poison their target to be able to successfully take their form, or perhaps this is merely just a preferred method. Either way, this is no easy feat, especially seeing as the Parasitic Mage itself is a very weak character. Its stats are 1 out of 5 across the board, so combat, status effects, or complex mental quandaries could easily best them. This being all the more reason to adopt someone else's form, life, and being. It isn't specified if the Parasitic Mage adopts the same abilities as the individual they replace, however. Being able to live an entire life as someone would suggest that you are able to convincingly replicate some elements or traits of the original person, but replicating knowledge or powers seems to be out of their abilities, at least entirely. This is implied by the fate of this or another Parasitic Mage in the Wayfarer's Journey. Reddit user UnlikelyFlatworm18 noticed that the weapon of Zurich in the Glass Hand Castle is the same as the Liar's Scepter, suggesting that they are in fact a Parasitic Mage. The description backs this up as the desire of living an opulent or upper-class life is seen with the castle once being a prison, but now, quote, a comfortable home for a vain wizard who rules over countless reflections that cower under him. So it seems as if the Parasitic Mage replaced Zurich, this wizard, and returned to this prison and then began to just vainly admire themselves, trapped in this self-obsessed illusion. What this says about an actual playthrough as the Parasitic Mage, I think it would be like a super hard mode, where you almost need to change form and stealth your way to your ultimate goal, being taking over Zurich at the Glass Hand Castle. We even see the silhouette of Zurich's shape and helmet in the same small image within the Parasitic Mage's description. So I think it's safe to say that the Mage's story would revolve around this aim, or at least be a part of it. Seeing as you're parasitic, I like the idea that the gameplay would involve draining other enemies or people of essence to use mana for spells. A lot of spells that stun or cause sleep instead of doing any damage, but with the payoff being that the size, level, or difficulty of the enemy doesn't matter as much, as it's more about avoiding interrupting them instead of actually defeating them. It's more about moving around than anything else. That would essentially be the Parasitic Mage. And much like this Magic Glass Cannon, another Magic Glass Cannon character I briefly mentioned in the previous video will be our next character, the Lorekeeper of Noom. Clad in torn robe with a peaked hat encircled by orbs and staff in hand, the Lorekeeper of Noom, keeper of knowledge and committer of fratricide, enters the deceptive hallways of the Glass Purgatory. His origins are difficult to place beyond his namesake, Noom. The Library of Noom is said to hold the largest collection of information in the known world, a vast assortment of written texts and scripture catalogued by a group of librarians to build hope for the future of mankind. So it seems the initial goal and aim of all lawkeepers is to, well, keep law, but also with the understanding that the world itself, or the world of Vermis, is dying in decay, or its people are so far gone that the only means for a future lies in those yet to be born who will learn from their collective past, their knowledge. The lawkeepers clearly seek out codex and collect them, journeying what one must imagine is nigh immeasurable distances, as the collecting of information, especially in a medieval setting, is rarely done without effort or travel. The beginning of our Lorekeeper's journey, however, begins with the acquisition of a particular dark codex and the murder of his 3 brothers. Our Lorekeeper found a tome of dark writings so vile and heinous that it was instantly known to be a weapon not meant for this world. His brothers wished to catalogue it, however, as all books are sacred. Their purpose is to protect and preserve information, no matter what that information is. But this codex, undoubtedly a Necronomicon equivalent grimoire, was still so vile that no one could ever know of it, not even family. A lawkeeper's ability to memorize every text in their possession made it only more clear what needed to be done. With his brothers dispatched, our lawkeeper begins his journey. My interpretation was that the lawkeeper we follow is journeying to the Glass Purgatory to hide the book for all eternity in a mirror of illusion so no one could find it, knowing full well that he will not return either. Why he hasn't destroyed the book, I speculate, is because he can't. Though he has tried, I sort of imagine that the book is just so powerful, or it heals itself, or it's protected by arcane means, that you can't destroy it normally. The codex, I also think, as I mentioned previously, may have a connection to Ogle, the Cage Prince, ancient demons, and the ritual used by a wizard to seal Ogle within a forbidden blade. Whether the lawkeeper is aware of this is hard to say, but the book probably keeps more than just one heretical ritual within its pages. The lawkeeper's stats are 5 in both mind and will, and 0 in faith and strength. His devotion is to the mind, and his will gives him the resolve to do what he believes must be done, despite his weakness and lack of faith in the world itself. Gameplay as the Lorekeeper would be similar to the Parasitic Mage, but with more of a standard wizard feel. Still pacifist in elements. You have mana, you can recover, maybe there's a cooldown, you have a bigger variety of spells at your disposal, but with only a few being exclusively damage dealing. A weak magic missile comes to mind. Others would be protective, for spacing, a push, a shield bubble, illusions, and light. This is backed up with the description of the first starting item. The Lorekeeper carries a library light, a staff able to cast spells, but primarily used for reading in the dark. The second item is the Eye of Dorvis, Dorvis being the ancient god of truth. It's a sheet of polished gemstone that allows any language of text it's placed upon to be translated into the reader's mother tongue. With these items, the Lorekeeper of Noom journeys downwards, beyond the mirror, beyond the fountain, further than one may expect. Being the only character with 5 points in mind, I feel their knowledge allows them to anticipate and avoid certain curses, traps, or enemies, or at least resist simple tricks of the mind. Where our Wayfarer finds them, with them being debatable, but I lean towards it being truer than not myself, this incoming theory. The Wayfarer, trudging within a dark serpentine corridor, sees a figure in the distance, holding a dull orb of light. A large skeleton, bearing a striking resemblance to the Lorekeeper, walks forward, robe, baubles atop their dome, staff in hand. An amulet retrieved from a fountain in the Wayfarer's pocket stirs. The skeleton begins to chant something, and the Wayfarer points the amulet forward, a scream and flash of light, then nothing. The bone dust settles. An amber staff holding a preserved insect is all that remains. This skeleton could very well be the Lorekeeper. Their attire resembles the Lorekeeper, the staff, light, and I'd even go further to say that the decay, the skeletonization, which is a word, just don't look it up, is a result of either carrying this dark codex or perhaps reading from it in desperation. A slow descent into becoming a lore lich. As the game gets harder, enemies more brutal, the call of deadly spells, powerful incantations from the book, it calls, and you might have to use them. You never should, but you could. My only confliction with this theory is deep within a tunnel of fog later, the Wayfarer finds a tall statue with a disfigured face, scepter, and a glass shard. This statue also bears a resemblance to the Lorekeeper, or Lorekeepers in general, but more directly it resembles the skeleton that was encountered prior. The disfigured face is a very unique feature to mention that I can't say I recall popping up anywhere else, so it suggests that maybe someone else is this skeleton statue figure, or previously. One thing to note as well that I feel suggests that the Lorekeeper may already be dead or changed before the Wayfarer even enters the purgatory, is one of the many shadows that terrorizes his dreams. Way back at the beginning of the book, looks like the Lorekeeper. Not in clothing, but in facial features. The hair, the expression, mouth open, in terror. It looks like him. The shadows, as well, are something else entirely. One which I have my own suspicions on, but for now, we'll just leave these two mages where they are, within the deep of the purgatory. I've been Haunted Picnic, and I'll see you